Welcome to Running Your Stories. I'm here today with Laura Williams, a local running friend of mine, and we're going to talk about Laura's story, explore my favourite topic, the motivations and the story behind an ordinary and inverted commas person that gets out onto the hills and starts achieving quite amazing things. And we were just discussing this a little beforehand about it's very easy for us to say, compared to some elite runners and things, that we see ourselves as being extremely ordinary and who would be interested. But if you consider that you've run more than one ultra now, and we'll get on to that, that puts you in the top % of people in the world, something like that. So it's, you start to move away from being ordinary, and there's a lot of people will be inspired by your story. I know that. So welcome, Laura.
Hello. It's funny that you say I'm in the 1% now, because that's exactly what someone said to me this afternoon when I was talking about this.
Yeah.
And I said, well, who'd be interested in me? And she's like, yeah, but think about how many people have actually done those things. That's
right, and that's what I love about sharing these stories is, shall we say relatively normal, is that a good way to put it? Relatively normal people can achieve amazing things, and there's a lot of talk about belief in yourself and everything else, and a lot of benefits by pursuing things that stretch you and develop you, and so I find it really inspirational to see what people can do, and I know a lot of other people do, so that's why we need to share your story.
Yeah, it's really nice to actually come and do this. Thank you for asking me.
No problem. I try and ask a lot of people, and if anybody's listening and think, Kevin hasn't asked me, just tell me. It's fine. Honestly, I want to ask everybody, but I don't want to harass anybody. There's a fine line between pestering people and them hiding from me forever because they're too shy to come and talk. Yeah. So. Yeah,
I would never have asked. So.
Yeah. I keep asking people. And actually, I was told a couple of days ago when I responded to an article on Facebook that apparently I'm an advert for ultra running.
Oh.
So, try and live up to that. So, should we start with a little of your background?
Yeah.
And actually, if you don't mind, it's probably worth mentioning what you do for a job and things like that.
So I'm a librarian. So I work at the University of Huddersfield. It's a library, there's lots of books, the internet, it's probably a lot more to it than people think, but it's actually quite a sedentary job a lot of the time. Spend a lot of time sitting at a computer, not doing much, moving around.
And when I checked with you, you confirmed that you don't run up and down the stairs training.
No, I don't. I do a lot of. We've got 5 floors in the library, so there are a lot of stairs to walk up and down if I need to, but it is very much a sitting at a desk kind of job, and that makes me quite keen to get outside when I come home from work.
Yeah. So where did your running story begin?
Actually, it was my mum that started trying to get me out of the door with her to go running when I was living back at home after I finished university. It's like that classic tale of needing to get a bit fitter and healthier and lose a bit of weight and stop eating, undo the damage of a university life of chips and beer and being really lazy. And so I kind of started there, didn't enjoy it, it was really hard. I remember being like, why can't I even run to the end of the road without feeling like I can't breathe and my heart is gonna like explode. And so I kind of gave it up for a bit, and then I think my mum must have convinced me to sign up to a 10k with her. And so I got a pair of running shoes for Christmas 2009, and then January 2010 I started going for really short little runs, much to the bemusement of my housemates at the time, who were like, it's dangerous, you can't go out running, it's cold, it's dark, you can't do it on your own. But I kind of must have stuck with it, and it kind of has built really slowly from there, because that's like nearly 10 years ago now. It's not like one of these like, oh, I took up running and then within like a year I'd run like a marathon and taken up an ultra and achieved like 50 park runs. It's not like you. It's really, really slow.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, it's a good thing to point out, because as you say, you hear a lot of, which are inspirational stories, and the lady's name will jump back into my head in a moment. There's an Irish lady who's won the Spine race a couple of times, who's a nurse in Leeds, and she went from smoking and drinking heavily and not being able to run a mile on a treadmill to winning a 268-mile ultra in a very short space of time. And yeah, you know, there are these remarkable stories, but they are so remarkable they're hard to relate to.
I'm like the complete opposite of that.
But as I say, that is kind of more relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's just built up over time. I think that first year I probably did a couple of short races. I was working in a library in Oxford at the time, and there was a little group of ladies that I worked with who were quite keen on getting a bit fitter, and so we used to go for these really tiny little slow jogs around the park outside our office at lunchtimes. We probably did not go very far at all, but at the time it was amazing, just like this little group of us getting out there and going for a run. And so I stuck with like 10Ks for a few years, and then for some reason I thought I want to run a half marathon, and I entered one, and that year I did 4 half marathons, and I just kind of got that little bit of a half marathon running bug, and decided that I really liked doing that distance. So I stuck with that distance for a couple of years, and then I thought, oh, maybe it would be nice to try a marathon. So I did a marathon.
So which was your first marathon? It
was the Liverpool Rock and Roll Marathon. And it was so hard, and it was so hot, and I hadn't really done enough training for it, because I just kept getting little horrible niggly injuries in my training, and I'd only run about 16 miles was the furthest I'd gone before race day, but I just went and did it anyway, and it was hard. I remember I texted my dad, because there was one of those like trackers so people could see where you're up to, and I was about like 4 miles from the end, and I texted my dad and was like, these last 4 miles I'm gonna have to walk them, I can't go any further. And then next thing I know, my dad's like running down the road towards me, and he came around like the last 4, he came in like chivied me on and was like, right, run to that lamppost and then we'll let you walk for a bit. Right, run to that next lamppost and then you're allowed to have a little walk. And that's what got me to the end of that marathon.
It's brilliant though.
He's even in some of the official photos from the race, just like in like jeans and like a jumper, just like jogging alongside me. And then I did some ultras eventually.
So I'm just looking at my note here, because you sent me a few things before. So that first marathon in 2015, is that right?
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah.
I did it for charity. I think that was what spurred me on through actually making myself do it. Because I'd been like, well, I've raised some money, I can't not go and run this marathon, even though I'm quite injured and I don't think I'll be able to finish it.
Yeah, and it can be a good sort of motivator, putting things like that onto yourself, to kind of put yourself out there and say, well, I have to deliver because of this. And there's different forms of it. Possibly the next podcast episode is going to be me talking about my plan for the Lakeland 100 with a couple of friends, so that I can be held to account.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like if you're doing it with someone, or you've like committed, like charity running is a good way to force yourself to get out there, or if you've told absolutely everybody that you're doing it, even that can kind of hold you to account almost. With these ultras, it's pretty much like, I'm going to run an ultra, everyone must know I'm going to run an ultra, so that I can't not I can't chicken out and not do it. So I think that's what helped me step up from being quite comfortable with a half marathon, because it's only a couple of hours of running, to something that first marathon took me 4 hours 50 minutes. That's a long day.
So it's a long time on your feet.
It is.
Until you've done it a lot of times, then it becomes okay. But that's that's the nature of how our bodies and minds change over time. That I'm sure it felt impossibly long at the time.
Yeah, impossibly long, and I think that's the thing as well. When you know I'm never going to be a really fast runner over the long distances. I don't think I've got it in me, and I don't think I've got it in me to do the amount of training and dedication required to make myself go that little bit faster, because I'm never going to win the thing, am I? So I'd just rather enjoy the experience of doing it, know that I'm not going to like completely destroy myself with an injury by doing it. Like that idea that I could push really hard on this, but I want to be able to keep running all of this year and next year, and know that it's just something that I can get out and do all the time. So I kind of like to keep it comfortable.
And as you say about sort of having a kind of long lifetime in running rather than sort of burning out, it's absolutely the way to do it. I've been trying to learn a lot about how to develop my running, how to develop my fitness, and one of the absolute keys to it is running slowly. Don't overstress your body, because it's the recovery that makes you fitter. And if you overstress, then your recovery is so long that by the time you've recovered, your fitness has dropped.
Yeah.
And so what you need is to just keep having just enough stress, like those little runs that you described in Oxford. It's actually a really good way to start off building your aerobic base. Just lots of little easy runs. And then the more you build that base, the further you go before you get stressed, and it is really the healthy way to go about things. You see people. Some people, of course, start off that way, start to make some progress, and then get a bit too caught up and like, well, if I just went a bit harder this time,
This is why I can't go to parkrun on a regular basis, because I can never treat it as like an easy run. I'll say to myself, I'll just take it really easy this week, or I'll try and incorporate it into a long run, and then find that I've like burnt myself out so much doing a park run that I have to get the bus home. And my plans for the 20 miles are abandoned because I've blown up at mile or whatever of my long run because I've gone to parkrun in the middle of it. And I know it's not a race, but it's like you're racing against yourself and your past versions of yourself. And I think there's always this kind of temptation that you always need to be PBing.
Yeah, I've only ever done 1 or 2 parkruns easy, as you say. Now, 20% of your running, pushing yourself hard's perfectly fine. 10 to 20%, and that's good and healthy. And but as you say, not pushing yourself to the point where you have to change plans and get the bus home. Because I live a lot closer to the park than you do, so for me it's like 4k down to the park, nice and gentle downhill, do a park run, and then it's uphill all the way back. So that's a good excuse to take it easy on the way back because I'm running uphill all the way.
Because I've got like 7.5 miles to get there because I don't have a car, so it's either run there or get the bus. Yeah.
So it's. But I do, for something of that distance, I do tend to thrash myself around it as well, as you say. You just kind of think, well, let's get it done.
Which is fun because it's like probably the only time that I go running, and I do go out and really see how fast I can go sometimes. Yeah. And it helps that I don't do this park run in Huddersfield most of the time. I do the one on the Wirral, which is beautifully flat, and it's great because it's just like 2 massive loops of a park.
Yeah.
And the bit that they call a hill, the people of Yorkshire would laugh at it because it's just like a little slope.
Have you considered doing any of the short fell races?
You see, I do like doing fell races, but because I don't drive and I don't have a car, and I don't have anyone with a car to drive me somewhere, I tend not to really do that many races.
Yes.
Particularly like fell races and stuff, because if I want to go to one, it's either got to be here in Marsden or in Saddleworth, or I've got to find other people that are doing it as well.
Yeah, because it's only in the last 6 months I've done my first short fell races. I'd done a few long ones before, but yeah, doing ones that are 5 to 10k kind of fell races it's kind of interesting, because it's the same as what we're talking about with parkrun, where you're just going absolutely flat out.
No, well, because all the fell races I have done have been kind of 10k-ish distance, but I wouldn't say they have been fast at all. Maybe my first fell race I did was in knee-deep snow in the middle of winter with absolutely no visibility, and it was so cold, and I didn't quite come last though, but I told every marshal I saw that it was my first fell race, and then they gave me a special prize. I got a whole cake.
Brilliant. Yeah, there's some I did one of there was a series of 3 called the bunny runs, kind of early in the fell race season, and they're only like 3 miles. They're quite good. The only thing is you have to go along realizing that there's going to be some like 15-year-old kid who's going to absolutely smash you.
Seriously fast teenagers.
Yeah, because that's good distance for kids at that age, and but it's good fun.
I just like fell races because they're lovely atmospheres.
Yeah.
And there's usually really good cake and friendly people that are willing to have a chat with you. And again, especially if they're quite small. I like small things. Yes. I'm not a fan of big crowds. So I'd much rather be at a tiny, obscure little event than like a massive, like, huge thing with loads of people running.
So you don't fancy London Marathon then?
No, see, London Marathon, I do always enter the ballot every year just because, like, it seems to be the thing to do. And it would be a really iconic thing to take part in, but it's not the dream race, because there's like really big crowds and
Exactly.
like absolutely just overwhelmingly busy.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the Great North Run once, which is not quite as big as London Marathon, but similar, kind of very crowded. And as an event to go along and sort of be part of the event, it's fantastic kind of atmosphere. But if you actually want to run in any way, unless you're one of the elite guys at the front, got no chance.
No.
Yeah.
I think I was spectating the London Marathon the year before I did my first marathon, so it might have been watching that London Marathon that gave me that little idea in my head that, well, all these people are doing it, so why can't I? That tends to be my rationale that leads me to sign up to bigger and more difficult things. You see other people and you think, well, they're doing it and they seem quite normal and not everyone's ridiculously fast. I like to check past results of races before I sign up to them, just to gauge an idea of whether I'm gonna be swept or put in the back of a van or something.
Yeah, and it's which is my kind of philosophy as well. I'm now able to look at most races and consider doing them, and I'm still, I look at some and think, I probably won't make the cut-off. I'll leave it another couple of years till I'm ready for that, and then go and enjoy it more rather than kind of having the pressure of someone sort of chasing you. Right, you're going to be, not going to make the next cut-off. So I guess we're starting to come around towards your ultra career. Should we call that?
My illustrious ultra career.
So I think it was the White Rose.
The White Rose, which I'd wanted to do for a couple of years actually, but so what's the year to do? It was last year, wasn't it? It was 2018. So 2017, I'd kind of had it on my radar of something I would have liked to have done, but I was doing the Snowdonia Road Marathon, which is the weekend before it.
Yeah.
So this year, last 2017, 18, we're in 2019 now.
Yes.
Because it goes right past my house, it's one of those ones where I was like, well, I can't not do it because there's going to be a stream of runners going past my living room window all day, and I'll see them and I'll think, well, I want to be one of them. So it was a kind of an obvious thing to sign up to, and it's local and on the stuff that I know, so it was kind of an ideal little starter ultra, really.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's without comparing it to like mountain ultras, it is actually quite hilly.
It's very hilly.
And it's not the easiest one in that regard,
and because it's got quite a lot of road in it, and with the route that year, it was like the second half was like essentially a road run, and when you're doing something that's like 32 and a bit miles or whatever it was, not the 30 miles I signed up for, thanks Wayne, which I think might have been the first thing I said when I walked back into the race venue. That was not 30 miles.
Yeah, it might have been partially my fault because I did give him a lot of stick because his original route was under 50k. I think, so many people want to hit 50k on the
50K.
first ultra. And so he got it up to 50k and then added a bit more.
Yes.
I didn't harass him about adding a bit more. But,
so those of us out on the route having that sinking realisation. And I knew from early on, when it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, that this is going to be longer than 30. But one of my friends messaged me towards the end to say, this is not 30 miles, is it? I've got quite a long way left to go. And I was like, sorry, yeah, you do. But yeah, it's just a really nice one to have done. And I think with it being local, that kind of gives you an advantage because you know some of the route, you're kind of comfortable with the terrain, you know what's coming up. But then at the same time, that's kind of a bad thing because you're spending the whole route being like, oh, I've still got to go up Old Map Road, I've still got Wessendon to come, or I've got that really horrible climb up from the canal that's brutal.
Yep.
So sometimes I'm not a fan. I don't normally recce things. So I quite like the surprise of where a race is going to take me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get my head into the mindset of thinking I don't need to recce things because I haven't recce'd any of the Lakeland 100. I've been on some parts of it on other races, but previously I've done quite a lot of recce's.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on whether you feel that it's that kind of thing of, do I need to feel confident on the terrain if it's something quite new to you? So with Pennine Barrier that I've just done, I did actually recce the entire route of that because I was worried about, am I going to be okay doing the steep climb up Ingleborough? So I went and did that a few times. Penny Gent with its scrambling, the first time I did it, it took me a long time to get up that bit of Penny Gent, and so I did make myself go back and go back again, and just wanting to feel, and also that kind of confidence of knowing a route if you're going to potentially be doing it in the dark or in poor visibility. Whereas something like the White Rose Ultra, it's kind of nice to have the surprises in something that's relative, it's a semi-urban ultra in a way. Yeah. It goes through lots of places where, there's shops and there's buses and you're never going to feel that vulnerable in a location.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, as you say, it's quite a nice mix because although there is a lot of it on road, the views from those roads are actually really very nice.
Really so nice.
And that's one of the things. As long as you lift your head up and don't look at your feet, the views are actually really good. As good as some of the views you get out on the trails. So yeah.
And I did go slightly lost at one point and go the wrong way because I didn't. A little bit of signage wasn't very clear, or I wasn't paying enough attention to it and didn't spot it properly, and went the wrong way. But I did realise, because I had a map with me, because you should always have a map with you, and I was like, this doesn't feel right, and I could kind of sense that it wasn't quite right. But there were other people ahead of me going off the wrong direction too, and that was partly never follow other people in races.
No, that's right.
Always look for the signs, not what the people are doing. So slightly embarrassing to get a little bit lost somewhere that's your home terrain, but to be honest, I had not been over that bit of the route before.
Yeah, it's all part of the experience.
It is all part of the experience. I think it's Wayne's events, I get lost on them. Got lost on the Wynathlon as well and did an extra 1.5 miles.
I'm not going to add anything to that. But I think, as you said earlier, sometimes doing something sort of local so you're coming out of your comfort zone because of the distance, but then you still have that kind of comfort of knowing, it's just around here, I know how the buses work. I
have my bus pass with me on the White Rose Ultra just in case.
So that kind of gives you that safety net to be able to push on another element, which is the distance in this case. So it seems to me like a very good way of doing it. I mean, the White Rose in 2017 was my first ultra as well, for exactly the same reasons.
Because it's good to, if you feel it helps you to start off with something. It's like that kind. It's like baby steps.
It is.
That's very much how I approach things in running.
Yeah, and that's good and healthy. Don't do a White Rose Ultra and a few months later do a Spine Challenger. Nobody would do that. But so, I think, was it after the White Rose Ultra you did a Malham to Marsden?
Yeah, so that was a little charity challenge that we did with Marsden Racers, who are the club I run with, and they try and do something every year. So that was last September, and I didn't do the full thing, so it was nice actually. So I did from Pondon Reservoir on the Pennine Way back to Marsden, which ended up being about 27 miles. So that was the furthest I'd ever gone.
At that time.
Yeah, kind of. No, that must have been before the White Rose Ultra. So I think that was my moment in my training actually, that I realised I can probably actually survive the White Rose Ultra, because we've done this nice Malham to Marsden, and I know that I can be out running it was really awful weather that day as well.
Yeah,
I joined them for a really long stretch from Pondon to Hebden Bridge, and it was about 11 miles, and it was torrential rain the entire way, pretty much in your face, no visibility, freezing cold.
Yeah, and that's the same September when I did the Hardmoor 60 that month, and it was too hot.
Because it had been generally quite warm, but that was a really nice thing to do.
I think they might have only been a week apart or something.
It was just a bad day. It did brighten up later on, and it was nice because when we got to Hebden, some other people joined us, and so we were kind of growing as we made our way back to Marsden, and then later on in the run as well, some more people joined us. So it was a really nice thing to do, because it was just a bunch of people going out for a run with the kindness of family and friends to provide checkpoints and support with cups of tea in car parks and things. Nothing, the complete opposite to going out there and doing a really big organised thing.
Yes. And
we raised loads of money for Macmillan Cancer Charity, and just had a really lovely day out. Got back to the Riverhead pub in Marsden, and people had set up a little mini finish line for us, and it was just a really lovely atmosphere.
Yeah.
One of those brilliant days of running that I probably always remember as just a really fun thing to have gone and done.
Yeah, and I think from what I see and since I've kind of slowly got to know you over the last year or so, that seems to be the thing, that you go out almost exclusively to enjoy the running.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say that you're not doing some serious running along, some serious distances and things along the way, because just by enjoying it and enjoying the process and what goes on with it, just keeps you motivated, I guess, and keep getting out there.
Yeah, well, it's about the experience of going somewhere new, or seeing something you wouldn't get to see if you weren't out for an early morning run or running at night, and it's about the people, like the people you get to chat to while you're out for a run or in a race, and just all those little stories and moments that make it nice and interesting. If I was just going and trying to smash different goals that I'd set for myself, I don't think I would be as motivated for it.
So it's, I guess, bringing us round to your biggest achievement today, which is, and it's impressive. really is. The Pennine Barrier 50, which is... Come on, tell us about it.
See, I don't think... I didn't actually find it as hard as the Manchester to Liverpool 50. Mm-hmm. I feel like Manchester to Liverpool, I kind of signed up for it. I signed up for Manchester to Liverpool first because I really liked the idea of running home. And again, it was that little baby step. Well, it's relatively safe. It's urban. It's on canals. There's supermarkets. You know, I can get picked up if I need to. And I was kind of using it as a building up to wanting to do Pennine Barrier because some of the Marsden Racers runners had done it the year before. So again, it comes back to, well, those people have done it. Maybe I could do it. And then we were at our Marsden Racers Christmas party and I was sat next to someone who had run it and someone who had signed up to run it. And I was like, oh, well, if you've signed up to run it, I'm going to sign up to run it too. And I went home and signed up for it. But it didn't feel as difficult doing the actual thing because it was a lot of walking. And it was a really long day and it was really hard at times, but it just very much felt like a really enjoyable day out. I love being in the hills. I love the Yorkshire Dales. I've never been there until last year. In fact, I don't think I had been and done a couple of the Yorkshire Three Peaks before I signed up to the race, but I hadn't actually done all three of them at that point. And I just think it's such a lovely part of the world. And I'm slowly ticking off bits of the Pennine Way as well. So Pennine Barrier helped with that. But what I really like about the GB Ultras events, which are the people that did both Manchester, Liverpool and Pennine Barrier, is because they only have about 250 people running those events. It feels really nice and it's got that small feeling to it. You get treated like someone who's a friend, someone that is more than just a race number.
Yeah.
And that really makes a difference to me. Because you just gives you that little extra bit of kind of incentive and motivation because there's all these people around you that seem to really care about what you're doing, and that's a really nice thing. So yeah, Pennine Barrier, it was just a really nice day out. It was good weather. I seem to be lucky with weather for ultra races so far in my life. It always seems to be a heat wave, which is not ideal.
But I mean, in saying that, actually, I think you've got the right mindset. It makes a big difference because, I was on the White Rose as well in November, and I was talking to somebody else who pulled out of the race because he said it was too windy. And it was he was finding it too tough.
Yeah.
But it's only too tough if your mindset makes it that way.
Well, because that was so Manchester Liverpool was Easter weekend, and it was a surprising heatwave day. We'd gone from having kind of like a mild winter, and then suddenly
this Easter,
here's Good Friday. Oh, it's about 28 degrees.
Yeah,
and you're going to go run 50 miles.
Yeah, I was in a race that day, and I fell apart. I finished 7th last. You just have to kind of accept that that's what the weather's doing, and plan accordingly. And because I always take money out with me on races just in case, I was able to go into a shop and buy an ice cream, which seemed to
blow the minds of lots of other people in the race with me, and they're like, where did you get that ice cream from? I'm like, well, I bought it in a shop. Like, why did you bring money with you? I'm like, well, I might need money.
I thought everyone always carried money on a race.
No, lots of people on Pennine Barrier only had debit cards with them, which not going to get you an ice cream from an ice cream van.
I do generally only carry notes, so coins are too heavy.
Yeah, so like just things like that. Like if you need to go to a shop or Pennine Barrier, it's got. Well, I stopped for an ice. Well, my mum and dad were actually waiting for me at the bottom of Whernside. They'd been following me on the tracker, and my mum was ready and waiting with an ice lolly from the ice cream van for me, which was perfect. That's like, I think ice lollies are my new favourite ultra running snack. And then not that much further on beyond the ice cream van actually is a tea room.
Yes.
And me and this bloke that I got chatting to, we stopped for an ice lolly and a pint of orange squash there for a bit.
I've had a pint of orange squash. It's the nicest orange squash in the world, isn't it?
It was lovely. It was so beautiful. Yeah. So I think on something like an ultra, for me, being prepared to just have fun with it, stop for random ice cream breaks or chat to people. I know they say you shouldn't spend too much time in a checkpoint, but I really like checkpoints just for the social aspect of them again.
Yes.
But I tend not to sit down.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. Yeah, and I mean, it's like you were saying earlier, it's, you can get very focused and take some of the fun out of it. And just when you mentioned in there about, the kind of social part of the checkpoint, I guess that is something I'm now starting to miss out on because I'm starting to get a bit, make a very controlled list of things to do, get in and out of that checkpoint as fast as possible. I'm walking out of the checkpoint with food in my hand.
Yeah, because you do, like, if you've got like 7 checkpoints over a race, if you spent 10 minutes in each of them, that's a lot of time that you're kind of adding onto your finish time. But comes back to, well, I know I'm not going to win it, and I know I'm not going to be getting any prizes at the end probably. So for Pennine Barrier, I was a little bit like in the run up to it, well, I'll go and give it a go, and if I don't finish it, that's fine. I'd said to my dad, I might not go all the way. And I think I was kind of telling myself that because I wanted to not be too hard on myself if I couldn't do it, because the Manchester to Liverpool, it took a lot more out of me, energy wise, than I was kind of expecting, maybe a bit naively, thinking I'd bounce back from it a bit quicker. And so I really struggled with the kind of training leading up into Pennine Barrier. And I hadn't really done many big runs before it. I was feeling really tired. I was really struggling to get out and just do anything. And so kind of in the back of my mind, I was like, it's okay if you don't finish it. But then I was a bit like, well, it'd be nice if you could finish it before it got dark, because it had like a midnight cut-off on it. Yeah. I was like, I do not want to be on that bit of Pennine Way coming back down into Malham Cove as it's getting dark, because I've not done that much technical trail running in the dark. So if I can get back before it gets dark, that would be nice. And then I was kind of like, well, if I could get back in position to get a silver coloured medal, because GB Ultras kind of give like the first so many finishes a gold colour, and then the middle set of finishes like a silver, and then the last kind of finishes a bronze. And it's like, well, if I can come in on a silver again, that would be really nice.
Yep.
And I finished it, obviously, and it wasn't quite dark, and I did get a silver. So that was a good day.
Yeah.
All in all.
Really good. And and I think the stress-free attitude towards it, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say relaxed attitude, but that's not the right term. It's stress-free.
No, it wasn't there. No, it's not relaxed.
No, it's not relaxed, exactly. But it's and there's apparently some new research being published about this, which I need to read in detail. But they've got sort of clear proof now that what I think, a number of people have known for some time, but they just keep adding weight of evidence to it, that when you're stressed, your body physically performs differently, and the amount of recovery it takes is much longer than if you're stress-free.
All right.
And so it is important actually to be as stress-free as possible when you're doing these things.
Yeah, so kind of taking away those big pressures that you're really just putting on yourself.
Yes.
Because it's just a run at the end of the day. So why let it become a kind of a debilitating thing that has a negative impact on your life?
Yeah, and there's also there's slight there's always multiple sides to something, and another side of things is you can use some of that pressure. Some can be healthy to push on if you're trying to achieve things, but as I say, it's now clearly proven that your recovery will be longer if you're stressed and if you do need to rely on that side to get what the thing that you're trying to achieve there. So people, places seems to be what motivates you to get out and run.
Yeah, I like the social side of running. Before I moved kind of over to Marsden, I'd never really really run with people that regularly. I used to live over in Saddleworth or Mosley, and I used to run with the Greenfield Greyhounds over there, which again, they're not a affiliated running club, they're just a group of people that come together, pay £1 a week and go for quite a sociable run. And so I used to try and get to them, but it was like not having a car meant I had to add kind of like 2.5 miles on each way to get there and get back again. So I kind of dipped in and out and kind of did it when I felt like I could. But
I did wonder where you knew Fiona from that experience.
Yeah, so Greenfield Greyhounds was kind of the first moment, one of those moments of transformation in me as a runner, because it was the first time I'd gone and run with people and felt comfortable with it.
Yes.
I'd kind of dabbled in a few other work-based running clubs when I was working in Manchester and different things, but I always felt too slow. I remember I went for this run once when I worked in Media City with a little running group there, and it was mainly men, and they were all very fast looking, and it turned out they were all very fast runners, and I was just left behind, and I was like, this is horrible. So things like that had always put me off going to running groups. So Greenfield Greyhounds was a turning point, and I felt like these are my people. I can run with these people. We're having a chat. We're just having fun. I started doing more races with them. But it was really when I moved to Marsden and it was people right on my doorstep going for runs that it kind of lifted it to the next level.
Yeah.
because I've got no excuses really when the meeting point is like a couple of minutes jog from a front door, and you know they're going to be going out into beautiful countryside surroundings. So even when you don't feel like it, you kind of say to yourself, how are you going to feel when you look out the window, see it's a really nice evening, and know that all your friends are having fun up on a hill somewhere and you're sat on your sofa? Which is exactly what I did a couple of weeks ago. Really didn't feel like going out for a run, didn't want to do it, couldn't be bothered, but it was a nice evening. I knew they were going up to Cupwith Reservoir. Hate that route, don't like it at all. But I thought
it's a fair old hill.
It's a fair old hill, and it's really wet and swampy underfoot, and it's all squelchy, and don't like getting my feet wet. But I just knew that it was a nice evening, and I didn't want to miss out on being with people that are my friends, having a nice time outside in the lovely evening sunshine. Slightly different story in the winter, because obviously being in Marsden, we don't really have that many roads you can run on.
Yeah.
So unless you're going to really push yourself to be out off-road in the dark, which is still a bit scary.
Yeah.
But you don't want to miss out on the...
Yeah. Get yourself some waterproof socks in the winter. I wear waterproof socks when I'm running in the winter. I don't mind having wet feet. I don't like having cold feet.
No, I'm not bothered by... I'm not even that bothered by wet feet. It's the drying of your shoes and things afterwards. Yeah. But what kind of keeps me going to running sessions on a regular basis is knowing that it's a good way to make friends. And I think moving to somewhere that, it's a reasonably small place, Marsden.
Yes.
It's the smallest place I've ever lived. If I wasn't in this running group, I don't think I'd enjoy living here, because I wouldn't know a single person. Whereas now you can walk around the village, you know people will like wave at you in the street, beat the horn of the car as they drive past you. I walked down the canal the other weekend and bumped into about 4 different people that I knew along the way. And that's all through joining the running group. You just get to know everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fantastic kind of paradox running, in that it's something you can do completely solo, and almost every race. There are obviously some team races and pairs and things like that, but generally speaking, you're going to race solo to get your time. Yet it's such a social sport, because you can always be with somebody.
You can. And I don't do races with people. I've never run a race like, we're going to run this race together and we'll stick together, which a lot of people seem to do on ultras. I've noticed. And I was having a chat with someone about this, like, does it give you an advantage because you've got someone there to keep you going, or does it kind of almost hinder you because you're stuck with someone and you're kind of obliged to stick together?
If one person stops, the other person stops, so you stop twice as much. The kind of nearest experience I've had was when I did the Oldham Way last year, and that's when I met Fiona.
And you all ran together, didn't you? And
it was only about half an hour into it that I started running with Fiona and Jess, and we ended up running the next 7.5 hours together. And that was a little different because there was no obligation to stick together. And so you could use the group dynamic, and the group grew and shrunk.
Yes.
And it ended up being 5 of us in the group. But through the whole race, I think there'd been at least 12 different people in the group. And so that was really nice. Because you got the best of both, in that there was no pressure to stay with the group. At one point I had to try and phone and see what was happening with my son's football match, and so the group carried on. They weren't going to wait for me, they had no obligation to, so I had to run hard to catch up to the group because I knew it was more efficient to be in the group. So that was
and that's probably happened. That's probably
experience.
been all of my ultras actually. I remember White Rose Ultra. I just latched onto a couple of blokes who were doing the 60, and just chatted to them, and that helped the miles pass. And they gave me some advice, which was really great. Manchester to Liverpool. I don't mind just starting conversations with people. So just start talking to people, chat for a bit. And Pennine Barrier was really nice because there was someone that I only knew of through Instagram, and we'd connected on Instagram and kind of messaged each other a lot. And then partway through the race at a checkpoint, it was like, oh, hello. And off we went, and we kind of did Penny Ghent together and stuck together for a bit. And then she was like, you go, don't let me hold you back. And off I went, and then we just kept kind of bumping into each other at checkpoints and stuff. And that was nice, but again, there's no obligation.
Yes.
There were other people there that kind of knew of, and you just start chatting. And that's what's particularly nice about. I don't particularly like social media, and I find all the running stuff on it quite overwhelming at times. But the fact that you can go to races and be kind of like, oh, I know you through the little squares on the internet, and kind of make those connections, that's really lovely.
Yes.
So races are a great way to just have chats with people. If you want to share some stories, find some stuff out.
And that's where this podcast idea came from, because when I started running longer races and started having exactly those chats with people, because I'm exactly the same as what you've described. I'll be running along, I say hello to almost every person I pass. I say almost every person because sometimes I'm having a bad moment and I don't want to speak to anybody. So it's never personal if I don't speak to people. Not on their part, it's my problem. But generally speaking, I'm the same. I speak to everybody I pass or catch up to or catches up to me. And I've met some great friends that way. Yeah,
because kind of being in a race, it gives you like that permission to make that first engagement with someone. You'd never look at someone on the street and be like, "You all right today? How you doing?" But when you're in a race, check in on people and ask them, "Are you all right? How's it going?"
Yeah, it definitely gives you that connection. First of all, you've got something in common because you're in the same race. Secondly, they know and you know at some point you're both not going to be all right. So it's a very reasonable question, are you all right? Because the answer rarely is, yeah, I'm completely fine. It's more often, I'm feeling okay at the moment, but I wasn't earlier. Or I'm not feeling so great just now. I'll be all right in a bit.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot more than just I'm fine. Well, why are you asking? Like you say, you'd get if you ask somebody on a bus or something like that.
You get looked at like you're really weird.
Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't happen that often in an ultra or like an off-road. If you started asking everyone in a road half marathon that, you would probably get some really strange looks like, why are you talking to me?
Stop talking to me. I'm working too hard. Can't talk. I think that'd be most of the answer.
Yes. And again, that's probably why I've naturally moved into trail races and ultras and stuff, because I guess they kind of fit with my personality and what I want to get out of running.
Yeah.
Which is nice views and chats with people and snacks.
Yeah, I mean, some people do describe ultra running as a eating competition. Who can keep eating the most to be able to keep going to get to the end.
I like that. Well, and it's also, I like the idea that you've got from like one place to another place that's really far away, and you've done it on your your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And if you really step back from that and think about what that is and how few people ever do that with their lives.
It's very fulfilling, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really like that. It's just, as you say, to have covered 30 miles, 50 miles from A to B completely under your own steam, it's such a kind of primal thing. I feel it goes kind of very deep inside. It's just a very natural thing to do.
And that's why I wanted to do Manchester to Liverpool.
Yes.
Because just the idea that it was the Easter weekend, like, I have run back to where I'm from, and now I'm going to just stay here and eat some Easter eggs.
Yeah, and I keep looking for a race that goes like from, let's say, Leeds to Newcastle for the same kind of reason. I would love to do that.
You just have to do it yourself.
I think I will at some point. Just for exactly that reason.
Which leads me into the Escape from Marsden.
Yes.
Which I have now paid and signed up for.
Brilliant. That's good to hear.
Which I was thinking about, because that's a completely different
Sorry, just one thing. Let's just make sure it's Escape from Marsden Stocks.
Oh yes, Escape from Marsden
Stocks. We do not want to in any way put down Marsden as a place.
Yeah, well, I'm going to come back. My house is hers. But that's. I was like, oh, it's just 12 hours of running, because I signed up for the 12 hours. Mm-hmm. And then it occurred to me that I've never gone that far on my own before without all the support and help around me. Like, how am I going to cope with no one to talk to?
Isn't Jeremy going to run with you? Or is he going to go in his own direction?
I think he might go the completely opposite direction.
I'm not going to ask what that means about your marriage.
I'm going
we'll leave that for not off camera.
I'm going west.
Mm-hmm.
That's.
Yeah, and I'm going north for 24 hours.
Well, if you went east or west, you'd probably run out of land.
I would hope to. So yeah. But I'm actually going to try for the first time running with somebody. So my friend Kim Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
Who was first lady on the Pennine Barrier 100. Yes. Fantastic runner.
Yes, I've listened to the podcast.
Yes, we will be doing another one to talk about that 100, because she's gone up to another level.
Yeah.
And she was already very good. And yeah, she's gone up to another level with good reason behind it.
So that'll be interesting to.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just trying to arrange the time. But yeah, that's coming up. But yeah, so yeah, Kim and I are gonna run together. And see how far we get.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever run for that long with another person before?
No. Well, 7.5 hours with Fiona is the longest I've run with one person before.
Yeah, so that worries me. Like, who am I going to talk to? Will I end up just? I don't phone friends and stuff, but I'm kind of like, am I going to end up like on the phone to random people throughout the day just because I'll need someone to talk to? I do, whenever I've done ultras, got a group of friends that I usually give instructions to. You must WhatsApp me throughout the day with like little motivational pep talks to spur me on. Just again, it kind of helps. Like going for a run, it's usually a nice time to like put your phone away, not be looking at social media and stuff, but on something as mentally challenging as an ultra, I feel like I need that extra support, like through the internet and WhatsApp and things as well. Yeah, it will be interesting, and I can confirm it is quite challenging doing something more under your own steam. I did the Calderdale Way
as a training run a few weeks
Oh yes,
ago.
I saw that on Strava.
And that was mentally very tough. I've run longer distances, but that was just short of 12 hours. I was running, and I met up with my parents twice to get food and water, just because they offered to. It was very, very helpful. But yeah, the hardest thing about that was in the latter stages, after sort of 8-9 hours, to try and keep a decent pace going, because I had nothing. Like we were saying earlier, it's good to not put pressure on yourself, but I had absolutely nothing to prove to anybody, no place to earn in a race. And everyone feels tired after 8 or 9 hours, and you just had to try some kind of different motivational sort of techniques with myself, which then actually got a lot of value from the training, because it, running the sort of running 50 miles, if I'm not trying to push myself pace wise, I am capable of doing that now. So there wasn't necessarily a lot of value in just going out and running 50 miles, just for the sake of doing it. But that was definitely valuable. The kind of playing with the motivational element. And in that sense, I'm actually pleased I did it as a solo rather than because this was the day before your Pennine Barrier 50.
Yes.
And I had almost signed up to the Pennine Barrier 50 to use that as a training run, because it's a lot easier. You get resupplies at food stations, and it's a beautiful place, as you say. I've walked the 3 peaks in one go once, and I've run it with a friend once. I'd be interested to race more around that area, but I then got invited to do a mountain rescue training course on the Saturday that doesn't come up too often. I thought, I really need to do that, so I booked a day off on the Friday and went. And
it's probably good to force yourself to do those long training runs.
Yes.
On your own. That's what I'm gonna try and get back into now. Just getting out there for longer periods of time. Probably not necessarily running right now, because I am still absolutely exhausted after Pennine Barrier. Because it's only been like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of long kind of walks with bits of running in.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of nowhere, to just kind of get myself back in that frame of mind of doing stuff on your own.
I did almost the opposite after the Challenger in January. Once I'd recovered from my injury, I actually started doing short, fast things for a while, just for a change of mindset.
Yeah.
Because before that, so much of my training had been long walk runs on my own. It was now, okay, just do something different. Go and see how fast I can go for a while.
Yeah, I think maybe after the escape from Marsden Stocks, I'd like to get a bit faster again.
Yeah.
I
even went and did track sessions.
Wow.
It's like that's completely different.
I've got a parkrun PB to smash. I'm on like 24:05. I need to get a parkrun beginning with a 23. That's a goal I committed to at the Marsden Races. Putting our goals in for the year.
Yeah.
I'd like to really see what I can do on those short distances. 10Ks. I like to try and do a road 10K at kind of the beginning of the year. So even though I don't train properly for them, I did one of my favourite 10Ks, which is in Southport, the Mad Dog 10K, and it's just a road. It's just a nice little road 10K. Sells out really quickly, really hard to get places, but I managed to get me and my mum on it. What did I do? We did 47 something.
Very good.
Which is that's insanely fast. I couldn't quite believe it.
So, sorry, what did you say your parkrun time is? 24?
24.
You did a 47 10K.
Yeah.
Certainly shows that you can do
I know, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Because one of your 2 5Ks in that 10 must have been less than 24.
I know, exactly.
So-
It's a wonderful 10K because it's so fast and it's really flat. It's on the seaside in Southport, so it's like the only hills in it are like going up the curb onto the pavement from the road and things like that. So it's just a really nice. But there was a guy I know from Greenfield Greyhounds who was I met him in the start pen.
Yes.
I didn't know he was there, and I know he can be quite speedy, so I was like, right, I'm going to keep you in my sights for as long as I possibly can and just really try and go for this. But that's the only bit of speed I've done this year. Just one 10K.
Yeah. So I think there's possibly one last topic that we'll touch on, if it's all right with you. You mentioned when you messaged me about some of the topics before that you'd had, was it a brain hemorrhage as a teenager?
Yeah. So when I was 16, I just had a brain hemorrhage. Just like happened one night. Had a really bad headache. And next thing I know, I'm like in hospital. I remember like bits and pieces in between, but it was essentially like a malformation of some blood vessels in your brain that I was born with. Loads of people have stuff like that. They just never know about it because nothing bad ever happens to it and it never gets found. And mine just burst one day. So it's it's a form of stroke and a lost kind of feeling in my right hand side for a little bit. Well, obviously bounced back from, recovered from it. It just kind of over time, over the period of like a few weeks, everything just kind of came back, and eventually I was like back to normal. But it's a really weird thing to think back on now because it's such a long time ago. It's like over 15 years ago, but obviously like completely changes you because it's such a dramatic experience. Like sometimes I even almost like forget that it happened, and then I kind of remember. And particularly when I was first starting out with running, and when I was doing my marathon, I decided to do that to raise money for the Brain and Spine Foundation.
Yes.
And I chose them as a charity. And so kind of getting more serious with the running really started to make me think about just how incredible it was that I was out there doing a marathon. It's probably something that for a long time when I was kind of at university and stuff, I just kind of took for granted that I'd survived and got better. And it was only really by starting to do running that I was like, actually, this is an incredible thing that you should make more use of your body and really appreciate it. Because I think before that I was a bit like, let's just pretend it never happened. It's not something I want to think about or talk about. And then so running was, I suppose, a bit of like a recovery and a processing it all much later after the actual experience of it all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm very lucky, I guess, in that I've not been afflicted by anything that serious, or and again, sort of spoken to a few people that have been through, like Kim that we mentioned earlier. She'd been through some very tough times as well, which has defined a lot about her and her running. And I remind myself as well that actually having not been through something like that is even more reason to make use of my body and enjoy it. Don't like you say, don't just take these things for granted that we're healthy enough I mean, again, one of the things that we're, I think, very privileged with is the fact that we have the opportunity, as in, we can work just a reasonable number of hours in the day, maybe too many hours sometimes, but then we can get out and do these things. There's a lot of people can't.
It's like you say, it's about like living in the moment almost, and making the most of those opportunities when they're there, because you don't know what's around the corner. I was like 16, I'd come home from school that day. I remember I would like eating my tea, watching The Simpsons, and then next thing I know, your life is like completely changed. You're not going to go back to school for 6 months. You're going to live in hospital for like 2 months of your life, which is not very long really compared to what a lot of people go through with health conditions and stuff. But it's a massive thing when you're a teenager.
It's a big change.
And so you just don't know like what life's gonna throw at you next.
Yep.
So I think by going running, for me, it kind of makes you feel like you're doing something with your life, and you're achieving things, even if they're really small compared to other people. For you personally, it's like I'm proud of the things I've done. I have my medals up on the wall. I frame my favourite. I've got a big picture frame that I did with like my 2 50-mile race numbers in there, my White Rose one, my first run up Snowdon, my first there's this really great event in Sheffield called Round Sheffield Run, where it's like a multi-stage race. So that one's in there. Things like that. My first marathon, the Snowdon Marathon. And so I am really proud of them, and I like to remind myself of what I've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great way of collecting memories, because obviously like, people love going on holiday, for example, and holidays are great, especially family holidays. You'll get memories that you wouldn't get any other way. And then, as you say, there's the achievement of developing yourself to do something that you previously thought you couldn't do. And actually, these two things combine.
They do,
and you get the best of both.
And you get to travel as well and go places, see things. Exploring.
And it's that, again, another one of these kind of paradoxes that I keep seeing, that you get to travel and go places that you wouldn't have necessarily gone otherwise, but also locally, since I've been running and trail running specifically locally, I go to such amazing places that are right on my doorstep that other people just don't know exist.
No.
Which is why I led that social one the other week to show some of the things that are right on the doorstep that people don't know are there, and it's very satisfying.
It's just getting out there and seeing the world around you.
I can just hear some birds singing outside as well. And I don't know if you caught that video I put on Facebook some month or so ago, where I'd run into Pig Hill Woods, which is on the other side of Scapegoat Hill. As you come down to the golf course. So I'd
vaguely.
Run back over the hill, heading back towards my house, and it had been raining, and it just stopped. And as I entered the woods, it was just this chorus of birds singing. It was like being in a jungle. It was that loud. And I just had to just stop and take my phone out and just record it for a minute, because it was just phenomenal.
Why I don't listen to stuff when I'm out running, because especially running in the countryside, you get to hear all sorts of wonderful things.
It's fantastic. So, as we said at the start, I think that your story will inspire a lot of people, because I think, you know, what you've been doing, what you are doing is incredible, and I think there's a lot of people will be inspired by it. So I'm going to put you on the spot now and ask you what your message is to people who are listening to your story and thinking, can I do that? Should I do that?
It's about not being too afraid to give it a go and just try and take that little step further if you feel like you want to. But yeah, I always think sometimes I've been a little bit too afraid in the past of failing at something, and therefore that stopped me from trying to do it in the first place. And really, what's the worst that can happen? You don't finish a race. Big deal, will always be another one, won't there?
Yeah. No. I think it's great advice, and great way to finish off, I think. So
excellent.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you.
We've chatted for a while. Can't quite see how long it is, but yeah, thanks very much. And we'll just close off by inviting our listeners, watchers to, you know, follow, subscribe to the podcast.
Yes.
And we'll hopefully come back to Laura at some point in the future.
Maybe.
And get the next stage of your story. Because I suspect...
It'll take a long time, Kevin.
Well, I suspect you'll do something different, not just, you know, progressing up the distance.
Okay.
I don't know what it's going to be yet, but we'll see. And yeah.
Eventually.
So, thank you.
Thank you.